Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in to me today. You'll probably hear that I am in my car, so I do apologize for the audio recording quality, but I am on hands-free, so it is all good. Being in my car is one of those places where I am very free. I feel like that Sag side of me, the Sagittarian, being moving, miles, scenery, things driving around, moving past me, a sense of movement. And it's a really cathartic place for me. I have a lot of really good ideas. I'll do a lot of brainstorming while I'm in my car driving and the windows down and scenery, air, music going, that kind of thing. And I do a lot of voice recordings, which I later listen to myself and have a speech to text translator so I can go back and unpack the thoughts that I was having and try and make sense of the ideas that come into my head. It's kind of like trying to catch like a flash of lightning in a bottle. And when you get that high or that idea comes, you've got like seconds to minutes to act on that. And my car as well is also not this car, but cars in general mean a lot to me. And sharing a little bit about myself with you, being a little bit vulnerable and being honest, which was the idea of doing this quick podcast today, was that in my late teens and early 20s, I actually was experiencing a bout of homelessness, and I consequently I lived in my car at the time, and it was a really miserable experience. I used to park in car parks in shopping centers and try and use public toilets and shower in the ocean if I could get to the beach in St. Kilda here in Australia, and kind of getting moved from place to place and getting banged on windows saying you can't park here. So it was a really rough time in my life, and kind of trying to create a home for myself has been something that has been a really big theme in my life. And then realizing that there isn't really safety anywhere anymore. And also realizing there never really was. We have to kind of create safety within ourselves, within our own ability to rely on ourselves if we don't have support systems, and create a sense of safety within our own self-protection mechanisms, knowing how to defend yourself, or knowing your environment, knowing what is safe, what is unsafe, that type of thing. So anyway, I was just, in a talkative mood, and I thought I would share some information and have a little bit of a chat. But yes, this car, or my cars over the years, have kept me buoyant, kind of like the artwork that Tracy Emin did back in the late 90s, which was an installation piece called My Bed. And if you don't know about that piece, it was a very controversial art piece that really kind of changed the direction of what art was at the time in terms of expressionism and making installations. But if you get a chance to listen to Tracy's thoughts on what the bed meant, it's kind of a reference to how I feel about being in a car. So that being said, I'm going to get on with this little podcast. If you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. It means nothing to you guys, but to me, it means everything. It helps me become more visible, and it really helps me get myself out there. That is the best thing that you can do for an artist is reshare their work and support them in any way that you can, even if it is just picking up a copy of their kids' book, or even just simply reposting on your IG feed. You don't have to put a square there on your squares on your Instagram. You can just put a temporary IG feed that will just last 12 hours or 24 hours. Like anything that gives some level of exposure will help more than you know. So the topic of today is a bit different, but I wanted to answer this question because I get asked this all the time, and I get a lot of DMs asking me about it. And I have explained this answer before in a Q&A, but today I decided that I'm gonna touch on it again and give it a bit more depth and go a little bit further down the rabbit hole. So, you know that my public name is Goliath, and that obviously isn't personally my real name. It's not the name that is on my it's on my birth certificate, obviously, and clearly it's a pseudonym. And if you don't know what that is, a pseudonym is a name that a writer or an artist or a creator chooses to cast themselves out into the world as a person that's making content, or is writing a book or whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's obviously a name that they have or I have chosen that wasn't assigned to me, that I go by publicly, because I am a very private person, and I have gone through a lot of trials, tribulations, as I'm sure a lot of you guys have. So I like to keep to myself. I'm very much a hermit, and that's kind of my thing. Much prefer home, couch, cooking. I don't really go out. I don't do drugs. I don't really drink. I'm that type of person. So yeah. But anyway, answering the question of why I choose to do this is because I like to maintain some level of anonymity. Although I do, and I have had, lots of problems before in my life, in my early 20s, when I was more kind of publicly known, or around Melbourne for multiple reasons, which I won't go into. I am very much needing to be kind of on some level. I like to be out there, which I put myself out. I've done quite a few videos. I've done some Q&As, but it was last year that I decided to just start recording live videos where you can see me, you can see my face. So in this podcast, the short version, and basically the short version of a long story, is that I'm going to explain the origins of the name, why I chose it, and really kind of what it means to me. So first of all, you know that I am most commonly known for the best-selling tarot card deck, which is the Goliath tarot deck. And the word "el" is a reference to, obviously, the word "the" in Spanish, but "el" actually means God energy. So E-L, El. Now, this is a biblical reference that you will hear in names that are associated with beings of higher or greater divinity than just a regular human. So names like Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, any name with any word with the letter E-L in it, or even there was a tarot card deck called the Mary L Tarot, and it's a reference to, higher divinity, purpose in the universes, or universe. Well, I believe there's multiple universes out there. It's kind of infinity, but the concept of infinity is quite hard for a human to comprehend, because we don't really have something that we can reference that to, like a reference point to relate to infinity. So that was the word El. And then the word Goliath, a lot of people associate that word with the Catholic tale of the giant, the Palestinian giant that was defeated by little David, and kind of like the reference point of overcoming something that seems impossible. And I think that's a play on also me liking the concept of, even if everything is stacked up against you, and even if the world doesn't understand you, or you don't feel received, or you don't feel wanted or understood, that you still keep on going, and you still believe that your dreams are possible, that things can happen for you. And if you work hard and you follow your path and walk a clean path, that if you just keep knocking, something eventually will open for you. And I've always believed that. I really believe that. And I think that reference from Frank Herbert's book, June, "The day shapes us, but we shape the day." It's really interesting. So the word Goliath came actually from a very important TV series which came out when I was a kid, and it's a good one. If you aren't familiar with it, I'm going to talk about it briefly, but it's called The Gargoyles. And this is way back in around 1994, and the show ran to about 1997, I believe. It went for about 3 or 4 seasons, and there were quite a few episodes. And the leader of the Gargoyles, the main character, his name was Goliath. And he was the noblest of all of his clan. He was the leader of the clan. And the illustration or the design work for that character and that show, it's just unparalleled. I don't see anything else like it. And it was kind of around a time where the Renaissance, it's called like the Renaissance period of animation, was in its height. And it was before everything got really wokey. And it was just really good fable, heart storytelling that showed up and had a message to say. And that show, I remember just coming back and just watching it as a kid, really was so important to me. And that character, it was kind of like trying to find someone as a kid as a role model. I believe that we need what is called in psychology, we need something called a downpouring. So a downpouring is when someone else shows us or teaches us how to behave. Someone shows us how to be humble or truthful or hardworking. And that downpouring is a very important thing which needs to happen. And it needs to happen very specifically for men, from the father, from the masculine. And if that downpouring doesn't occur, we see massive problems within society and as we are now. So it was that character that I kind of wanted to encompass, or I guess you could say kind of idolize a little bit. And I'd often wonder to myself, like, what would he do? What would Goliath do? What's in the best interests of everyone involved? And I think that was the tragedy of him as well, which was that his character had to re-wake again after 1,000 years of being trapped, turned to stone. He was betrayed by his lover, Demona, and navigating a new world where he himself was up against like a lot of odds. And that was kind of like the reference point, which I've always been so interested in when it comes to following the path of being an artist, being someone that is interested in the occult, interested in psychology and the real thing. And I think that truth in itself generally isn't, you'll find truth is actually darker than fiction. Okay, and I think that's something that I've come to terms with as I've gotten older and started to trace the chords back to the wall. You'll see that. I see that every day. And having the strength and fortitude to try and carve a world for yourself as an artist, it really requires a real enormous amount of self-belief. And that kind of goes back to the play on the word Goliath. So, yeah, I hope this is all kind of making sense. Also, not sure if I mentioned before, the word owl is also a reference that you see in Superman, in the Superman series. So Kara Zor-El, Superman's cousin, the house of El, and of course, Kal-El is Superman's real name, other than, his alter ego or Clark Kent, or maybe it's the other way around. But yes, El is God energy. So that's why I chose it. So I'm clearing this up because it's like the 100th time I've been asked why that name. Why? Because I prefer some level of privacy. And for people that know my real name, it means a lot that you respect me enough to keep it private. But yes, this is why I chose it. Also, there was a reference point to the 8 of Pentacles, which was a card in my tarot card deck, where I used the Goliath spider, which is a large Australian bird-eating spider, which is in that card. So that was also another reference point to it as well. So yeah, in terms of being an artist or even a writer or a creator, one of the things that I've learned is creation is the only way for immortality of a human to still be here. Everything else will be reduced to dust. Only an idea can last in the physical world. Everything else breaks down, or it gets rebuilt again, or it gets absorbed into something else. But in terms of physical matter, an idea is the only thing that can actually last long after I'm gone. Even if I don't have kids and my DNA isn't out in the world walking around, I could create a downpour of consciousness which would go out into the world and make some level of difference to people that are able to receive that. And that's why I've mentioned many times over, it's really important to try and find people that can actually receive you. Because if they can't receive you, it's like a boat that's kind of coming into a port, and each boat requires very different ports or a very specific port for the boat to dock. And the more unique the boat, the more unique the port has to be for that to dock. I hope that makes sense. So I will leave it here. I hope that I've answered your question, but yes, it's a reference point to the character Goliath, who despite everything that went on in the story arc of that character and that show's journey, leading the clan in Manhattan, and also just all of the mishaps and failures and heartbreak that he went through, kind of like a tragic, noble hero. He didn't become judgmental, and he had compassion, and he led with honor, and he led with this kind of stoic, noble energy. And it was beautifully done by Keith David's voice, if you know that man. Keith David is a very, very talented actor and voice actor as well. So yeah, anyway, if you don't know the show, maybe I've shed some light on it before and for you now, so you can go and have a look and investigate it. They just don't seem to make shows like that anymore. So anyway, wishing you a really fabulous week, a great week. I hope that it's productive. Stay positive, keep doing the work, keep showing up. And I will be continuing my Cold Hard Truth video, and I will be doing it from next week onwards. So I hope that you're all well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, bye, bye.